If you're like me and have ever found yourself doodling while at school or in a meeting that you really would rather have not attended, then these tumbler styles are for you. There are no right or wrongs with these tumblers, and they are super, super fun to make. Hello and welcome back to Everything Tumbler Tutorials. My name is Rebecca and I'm a Tumbler designer. And in this tutorial, I can't wait to show you how I created these zen-doodles, Zentangle tumblers. And just as a reminder, everything shown within this tutorial will be listed and linked for you down in the description box below. All right, let's go ahead and get started. For this tutorial, I'm going to be working with a 30-ounce sublimated tumbler that I have already sanded and prepped ready for this design. You can purchase 30-ounce and 20-ounce sublimated tumblers from AB Designs Co. For this particular tumbler, I definitely recommend using sublimation tumblers so you don't have to worry about spray painting, peeling, or chipping, or even having to epoxy before moving forward. So here you see that I'm doing a reverse weed on my Zen Cityscapes design that I found in Cricut Design Space. I believe my image was cut 10 wide by 5 height, so I can get as much of the Zen City as I possibly could. Once I finished my reverse weed, I then applied transfer tape, which is going to help us apply this to our tumbler. Applying this to my tumbler was super easy, except when I got to the ends where they both met up, I did have to tweak it just a little bit to where it would make sense. Also, this bottom half was left as a guide, but I do not need it because I want my cityscapes to land at the very bottom of the rim of the tumbler, which might make sense now, but if it doesn't, it will here soon. So once I got all of my little bits for my bridge and everything else onto the tumbler, it was then time to go ahead and move on. So I probably did my sizing off by a hair, but that's okay. I just did a little bit of trimming just to kind of tighten things up and to where it would make sense when it met up here in the back. Once I got everything situated, I then went ahead and removed my transfer tape. I want to mention that in normal cases, when you go to remove your transfer tape, you want to pop the vinyl and remove those air pockets. But in this particular situation, you do not want to do that. So as long as you don't have any gaps around the image in which you've chosen to use, or in my case, my cityscapes, I would not want to pop any bubbles that are near or around or in this green particular vinyl section at all. Because if you're going to use alcohol inks and or in this case, melted crayon, you wouldn't want it to seep through the air pockets and the holes that you just made. So I do hope that makes sense. With that said, here I'm just going to go ahead and trim this up to where it makes sense on the tumbler and as far as the cityscape theme goes, and just making sure that this doesn't overlap where it's not supposed to overlap, but still sealing to where it protects so that my entire image looks uniform and correct when I get ready to get started. And again, this will vary very much depending on the design and image you choose to use for this. Once everything's tightened up with our design, we're now ready to move forward. And this is the fun part. Now, I know you've seen me do the melted crown very recently. I absolutely am obsessed with this type of design. I really believe genuinely, and it could just be my opinion, I don't know, but I really think that the crayons blend way better than alcohol inks. And maybe that's just because I'm totally not skilled with alcohol inks. I don't know. However, this design can be done with alcohol inks and maybe a dirty pour method. Now, I did try something very new that I hadn't tried before using crayons, and you'll notice that I take it off the turner, put it back on the turner, take it off the turner and such. And basically, while it's off the turner, holding it upright or upside down, I start to melt the crayons, giving it more of a pull down appearance versus it going around the tumbler. And again, I pray that that made sense, but I didn't want it to wrap around like alcohol inks. I really wanted it to have more of a pull down effect. Totally different. I've never tried that before. And quite honestly, now I'm even more obsessed than what I was obsessed because it worked flawlessly. Though it did take a couple times because I had to kind of get the hang of it, because it's not like I'm working with epoxy, which helps it maneuver on your tumbler. We're talking, you've got seconds from the time you remove heat on these crayons and it stops. It doesn't continue to move. So my recommendation after all that is, if you like the way that it looks, try not to overwork it. And that sometimes can be the hardest thing, is to say when is enough enough. But once you're happy with it, we're going to go ahead and let it sit off for just a few minutes and completely dry. And then we're ready to go ahead and peel off the vinyl. So I did speed this section up a little bit. However, it's still so very satisfying to watch the removal of the vinyl. When removing the vinyl, just be very careful to not nick the crayon in which you've just created. And I just wanted to mention that I have been wanting to try this for such a long time, and I'm so excited that I finally did, and to bring it to you guys to open your minds to new ideas on tumblers in general. I hope that this inspires you to try something very, very similar. Once all of my vinyl was removed from the tumbler and everything was cleaned up, it was ready for its very first coat of epoxy. I did not seal this tumbler prior to this coat of epoxy. My first coat of epoxy I will be using for tutorial purposes, the Turbo Fast Set from Counterculture DIY. Once you have sealed your tumbler and you are happy with it, be sure to use your heat torch to pop any bubbles you may or may not be able to see. We're going to wait 1 solid hour before moving on to the next step. I've never thought to mention this before when doing a melted crayon tumbler, but I also do want to tell you that using your heat torch does not affect the melted crayon design at all, as you are not exposing it to the heat long enough. Once our tumbler has fully cured, we're ready to move on to the art, the Zentangle method. Couple of things that I want to mention and shout out before I just stop talking and let you guys watch. I know the angle is completely different. Unfortunately, the camera I have been using for all of my recording has apparently broken. I don't know what's going on with it, but anyways, so I am using my cell phone and I'm kind of digging it. So if you guys want to comment down below and let me know what you think of this angle, I would appreciate the input and your thoughts and opinions on that, to see if we're all on the same page. At any rate, with a little background on the Zentangle method, this is a non-representational and unplanned type of drawing. This was created back in 2004 from a Rick Roberts and a Maria Thompson, and this is just super fun of repetitive designs. There is no right or wrong. It's lines, simple curves, and circles that are repetitive. And of course you can draw whatever your heart desires, which is kind of what I did, but I was also repetitive. You'll notice that my circles aren't perfect, my lines aren't perfect, and everything looks a little bit wonky. But at the end of the day, when this was all said and done, I am genuinely obsessed and love the way that this turned out. I will tell you that it takes patience because there was a lot here to cover. When you get ready to do all of your designs, you want to just make sure you just fill in where it looks like it makes sense and make sure all of your lines connect to wherever you're going to attach it. So there's times where you will see that I'm kind of bouncing around, and that's fine. I am using a bold and fine style type acrylic marker, which I promise to have listed and linked down below, purchased from Amazon, to where I could go back and forth using the exact same marker, just flipping it from one side to the other to fill in the little spaces versus drawing out larger sections. A couple of things that I would have changed and maybe would have thought a little further through, but again, the whole point of the Zentangle, zen-doodle effect is just that. It's unplanned and you just go with the flow. Relax. Don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. At the end of the day, if anyone's looking that close at your lines, they don't need to be your friend. End of story. So anyways, I really hope you guys enjoy this, and I'm going to put on some Zen music and just let you guys simply enjoy as the rest of this video is sped up, because I really, really value your guys' time, but I also wanted you guys to see exactly what I have done to create this overall Zen tumbler. After having checked all the spaces that I wanted to cover and made sure everything was the way that I wanted it, it was then time to go ahead and use the bold section of my marker to re-highlight the original mapped out cityscapes. This isn't a must, but I thought it was necessary, and it looked so much better after I went ahead and reevaluated those lines and made them a lot sharper. Like I said, there's a couple of things that I would have changed, but overall, I simply love the way that this turned out. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. Once I finished all my acrylic drawing, I did not need to seal this tumbler, and it was ready for its next coat of epoxy. For this next coat of epoxy, I am again going to be using the Turbo Fast Set from Counterculture DIY. And as always, once you're happy with your epoxy coat, it's then time to go ahead and hit it with the heat torch to pop any bubbles you may or may not be able to see. And that's it for this tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. This was such a fun Zen project to do. I absolutely had so much fun. I really can't wait to try this on a canvas, which is probably coming soon. There are, like I said, a couple of things that I would probably change, but overall, I am super satisfied. As you can see, I did one opposite of the other, which was the tutorial in which I did today, and predominantly the section was melted crayon in the pink tumbler, and I zen-doodled in the cityscapes. So the variety and options are absolutely endless, super fun. Don't beat yourself up. Just have a good time. Try something new. I really want to thank you guys so much for watching, and then don't forget to leave me a comment or a question down below. Till next time, bye.